Hey everybody, this video got too long, so this is part 2. Part 1 was last week, perspective. This is part 2, our purpose in grief. And if you didn't see the initial video, I will put those links below, but the one before both of these, which is really helpful, is permission in grief, the permission God gives to grief. So check all of those out and let's roll the tape. We're going to talk about purpose. I want to go back to those verses in 2 Corinthians. It says, who comforts us in all our affliction, so that we may be able to comfort those who are in any affliction. Any is such, it's just a little 3-letter word. It changes everything. So when we receive the comfort of God for whatever we are walking through, we are then able to extend grace and love and compassion to those who are in any affliction. Now, I'm not sure, I don't think this just like automatically happens. I do know that the longer I have gone on, my screen went dark, the longer that I have gone on in this special needs journey, the more compassion I feel for other people. And right now, today, in our world, I feel like compassion is a superpower. And I want to do everything that I can to cultivate compassion. And the Bible is telling us that the best way to cultivate compassion is by receiving the permission that God has to grieve, the permission that God has for any affliction that we may be walking through, so that we may receive the comfort of God, so that we may comfort those who are in any affliction. So permission and perspective leads to a purpose of living as compassionate human beings, as compassionate Jesus followers, as people who can relate to anyone because they have walked through tragedy, they have walked through affliction, they have walked through difficulty. And so now, because they have received the comfort of the Father of all mercies and the God of all comfort, they are now able to comfort those who are in any affliction. There's no qualifiers like, oh, if we agree, or oh, if I can see your side, or oh, if I have been through that. It doesn't mean, it's so helpful because it does not say if you have been through the same thing and then you receive the comfort of God, you may be able to comfort those. No, it just says you receive the comfort of God and you're able to comfort those who are in any affliction. It is such a gift of grace. This is where grief at its best partners with the grace of God to build compassion, to build communities that are committed to one another, despite differences, despite experiences, despite, some of my closest friends have not gone through what I have gone through, but it is because it's the compassion of Christ that pulls us together. So, some practical tips. I love my practical tips. So, this might seem too easy, but last week I talked about a journal where you journal to God and you just write out everything that you want to say to Him. You could either get a separate journal to this or it could be all in the same place. But I would recommend something that I've done that has been helpful, and this kind of sounds too easy, and well, let me just tell you what it is. So I practice writing out things that I'm grateful for. And so keeping a gratitude journal. And that seems really simple, but there is something very powerful about not just thinking the things that you are grateful for, but writing them down. And I'm aware that this could tap, if you've had a bad experience, like just give thanks, it can tap into a painful memory. So that might be something that you need to write out and process with God, but that doesn't negate the fact that God is very clear and that Thanksgiving is a weapon, and Thanksgiving, gratitude, giving thanks, however you want to say it, it does shift our perspective. It is an act of worship, and it shifts our perspective from what we are feeling to who God is and what He's doing and what He's blessed us with. So, and even if it doesn't feel, there's been many times where I have been writing it out and it doesn't even feel like anything's happening. And I really like things to feel like they're changing. But what I have noticed is that I'm going about my day, and if I start to I'm at the point now where I do realize when I'm starting to sink. When we're feeling sad, I know in and of myself, I kind of want to be like, let's stop feeling like this and let's get out of this sad place. And so I mentioned last week that I have been practicing just being okay with not feeling okay. So being okay, like not chiding myself for feeling sad, but also in that same moment of sadness, expressing that to God, and then also kind of shifting my perspective on the things that I had written out. So I think writing out the things you're thankful for is a good practice, but it's not just for the moment. It's like building those little tiny muscles. Again, thinking about who we want to be when we're 90. I want to be a 90-year-old woman if I make it that long. Who knows? But what I'm saying is, like, I want to be, if I'm in my 70s or my 80s or my 90s, I want to be an old lady who is just who is young at heart and full of God's wisdom. My battery's about to die. My computer, which is my battery. I think it's also helpful to say these things out loud to God. There is something very powerful when we just say them out loud, speaking them out. And that can come in the form of writing down and then saying it out loud. I think for me, practically, just putting on worship music and singing to it or just listening to it is another very simple, practical thing that has helped shift my perspective from myself and my situation to God and His goodness and how ultimately He is working something out. I don't know what He's working out, but He's doing something. I know He is. I know it from all the stories around me where I've seen people walk through real difficulty and come out with just deep compassion and love for others and a trust in God that is unshakable. So anyway, that is my little spiel on what I feel like I'm learning through permission, perspective, and purpose. Putting these videos together and putting them out on YouTube with who knows who's watching them is part of what I feel like God has told me to do as far as my purpose in sharing our story. So thank you so much for being here. I hope you have found this helpful. If you have found it helpful, you can like this, you can subscribe to this, you can share it. That's always helpful. I wish someone had shared something with me like this when I was first starting out, or wherever you're at in life. We all need all the encouragement we can get, right? So I hope this has encouraged you today. You are amazing. You are awesome. God is for you. God is with you. No matter what your circumstances, no matter where you are in that valley, God is with you and for you. So thank you so much. Thanks for joining me in my red chair, my alley chair. I need to tell that story someday soon. Next week, I'm going to go through that diagram of the valley. So that is next week. Come back for that if you want more. And if not, all the best. Peace out.